here that you guys are seeing. I don't think anyone was confused here. What we are trying to see is large bid, and that's what we got towards the end of the day. We got the bid, and then I guess after ETH, we are trading well above it now. We are in a spike zone here, and that's what we're going to cover here on 30 minutes because I think our weekly levels are pretty set on the so let me turn this on and then kind of explain just to make sure that we reiterate what's the purpose of spike and how to use it. Is there anyone confused? Because I did see some wrong slides just moments ago on spike. Where's the spike on ES?
Starts at 78.
So they're saying here. Don't know why this one takes so long. Okay. So does everybody understand that it starts right here? Right where I kind of marked it here. Any questions there? Nasty, any questions on that, where it starts?
Nope.
Okay. So now when you go down, pretend the end period is not there. The end period only shows what? Why do we use it?
The settle price.
Yeah, it's just a settle price, right? So if I was to go here, and what does that mean? Settle price.
It's the 415 price, and we use it to see like overnight if we were net long or net short.
That's our cash close, right? That means, you know, do you guys know that you can trade like SPY and SPX, not 0 DTs, but 1+ DTs till 415? Most of you know that if you trade options. And also, do you guys know if you're to close in the money on SPX, you guys understand that you don't get 100 shares of SPX versus SPY where you get assigned? You guys understand the difference? If you guys trade these instruments, you should probably inquire. Okay. So the same for ES, our cash close is at 415. So end period is only there to show you the settle price. And that's right here. So at 71.25. How do we use settle price? And I'm going to give you guys a quick lesson. How do we use settle price and why do we mark it?
To see if we're net long or net short overnight.
That's correct. You want to know if we're spending overnight a lot of time. Let's shift here, right? So if this is our settle price and we are way above it, that means that we are not long overnight, right? Typically, what happens in the morning RTH session is when you have a lot of net long, especially after a liquidation like we had today. What would you expect at open?
Inventory correction.
Inventory correction is the right answer. You want to rebalance the inventory. And what that means is the inventory is not long because we are above the close price here. When the inventory goes above, and let's say the intention, let's say we open above 78, which would mean a lot based on a spike, correct? What would that mean, Nesty, if we open above base spike of 78? If we open here, what does this mean?
Well, it seems like the whole spike was rejected.
That's correct. That means this spike right here is rejected, and that becomes a pretty powerful support level moving forward right here. That would be treated almost as a single print. It's not a single print. That's why I said almost. It's because the end period is invalidated to the bottom and it leaves it blank, right? Especially if we open here, that makes it a long, long tail. Does that make sense to everyone? Because you're rejecting the bottom. So if we open above the spike, you are fairly bullish, right? It seems like that they're a counter trend. And also at the same time, it would mean what about this area here? What is the market telling you if we do defend this little pink area here?
Accepting value.
Finish it. Go all the way. They're accepting value where?
Within the single print giant spike there from the last time.
It would
Triangle.
mean that they're accepting the value to be on the top section of this right here, right? The yellow or whatever this color I just picked. Let's make it yellow. Okay. That would mean the yellow is where the value is, that they're not interested in trading in the bottom and say the value is in the bottom half. Does that make sense? Right now, they're just saying, yes, the price should be, the bottom is here, other time frame buyers stepped in, and the end period is going to tell us the validation if this was what? This wick here. What is it going to tell you tomorrow morning on the A period? Somebody want to cover the scenarios if on the settle on the spike and what it would tell you? What are the
That-
three scenarios tomorrow?
If you open below it, it's very bearish. In the middle of it,
Okay.
below the end of the spike.
Okay. If you
If
open
you
below here, that means very bearish, correct? Yep.
in the middle of it,
Right here. I think we lost John, but he was on the right track. I think it was John, right?
That would be somewhat bearish if we open up there.
That's correct. That's semi-bearish, extreme bearish, semi-bearish, and
Bullish.
we are rejecting
Above.
the bottom, which would mean that today's end period could have been what? Right here.
Spring
Other
Time frame.
buyers.
other time frame buyers. And were we expecting other time frame buyers here?
Yeah, because we were in
Yeah.
another single print buying tail.
Exactly. So we were expecting these guys to come in, right? So it makes sense that because now it makes it a really confusing bottom when you think about it psychologically, right? Was it time frame buyers or not? Well, we don't know until we see it tomorrow. We can assume they are. I mean, if you guys looked at the bid, I was trading live at the end of the day, and I pointed out, and the bid just went almost 2,400 to zero at the bottom. And then the next candle show aggression on the upside, right? There was aggressive buyers. I went long, maybe 4 or 5 points, $300. Went from negative 1,800 to negative 1,500 on a day. I got eaten alive on some of the longs today because I didn't see aggressive selling throughout the day, right? Typically, it would trigger selling a little bit more. Here, POC shifted, right? Value area high shifted, and then the late sell-off came in, I would say, at 3:30, right? So I can't say that my read was wrong. Maybe I was not taking the market information that it was giving me and trusting myself that it could be a sell-off. And is it normal that me make mistakes like that? Yeah, of course. If somebody tells you that they don't make mistakes while trading, well, you might want to go look elsewhere because it's impossible, right? We're humans and we are not programmed, to work every time the same. But even when you look at this, tell me, how can you be bearish on this? Is there a reason to be bearish right here till at any point here? The only point here that came was this one. And what did they do on the next K period here? See the K period? Higher high, higher low. Like, when I saw that, I'm like, okay, well, it looks like that they're setting the value to be the low here. If this is the low value and the L comes in, I was like, okay, well, that might not be a bad long. Well, I got in and I got out. It was pretty quick how they executed that. And then I was waiting, right, to see if they're going to be able to give me the 71. We waited here. They gave us that in the M period. They spiked it down a little bit below and then they reclaimed some of it, right? And now they're somewhere around here. So it was not an easy day, I would say, to trade just because it was so slow. Usually when you see sell-off, you don't see a lot of hesitation, right? And in this point here, did you guys look at the IB today? It was really interesting.
it was narrow.
It was small, right? But when you look at the IB, they came here, right? And I'll just go on smaller time frames so you guys can actually see some candles. and they rejected. This is where I was like, okay, well, this is getting a little tricky now. Why was it tricky for me for IB and why was I bullish?
You saw that they tried to crack below IVL. They couldn't hold it, so you were probably looking for the IVH to be tested and possibly break above.
That's exactly right. And that's where I went long. I went long here and I re-added again. I made some money, but then this is where, you know, I lost money here, right? And I was not expecting, you know, to go from typical to what? What type of day did we end up having?
Extended typical.
Very typical.
It became very extended, right? We know that 30 minutes, if you're breaking the ranges of the day that were set in the last 30 minutes, you go to extended typical. And then you look at here on the IB, well, it's not difficult to go IB 3x when your IB is what, like, I think it was like today was 8 points. I mean, that means you have to move 24 points from the IBL. Right. So it wasn't that difficult to achieve that, but this could be a very good trap for the bears. And tomorrow we find out within 30 minutes, we're gonna know what the plan is. And I want my money back. Okay. Let's see. NQ.
Question for you, Shorty, before you move on. If we were to open up above the spike base from today and we don't test it tomorrow, is that a level that you would like leave on your chart or
I would, yes.
move it?
I'd leave it on the chart because it's gonna mean, resistance support, right?
Okay.
If you're not coming back to it, that's very bullish sign on the demand side, right? If you come next time and you just peak below it, high chance you're gonna crack this. Right? That would mean that the sellers that came in here initiated this aggression are back. They sold their inventory at higher prices again, and they're gonna probably liquidate as much as they can. So that's how I would treat it. Good question. Very good question.
I have another question for you.
Mhm.
Say you open in between previous day value low and the spike base. On TPO it would be bullish, but would you consider that like that's not bullish obviously on volume profile? So like how do you kind of read or
It's not
what's your
bullish.
bias?
It's not bullish on market profile.
Okay.
And I mean, if you look at it here, it would mean you're reclaiming the value area low, right? And I would say when you look at this now, you're in a you're in a 2-day balance, right? Your value area is kind of overlapping, right? So this is your 2-day value right now. If you look at it, it's right here. And look where this one is. It's at 80. The first SIG is at 80, and they had a bunch of bounces here before. But the only reason why I say it's not bullish on TPO is what? Take a look at it. Something's telling you here. Let me zoom in a little bit here. He's saying if we were to open, correct me if wrong, if we open above PD value area low, is that correct? Are we bullish? Are you bullish if you open here?
No, I'm saying if we open in between like the spike base and,
Right here?
previous, yeah. Like
Yeah.
what do you?
I mean, you're bullish, but where's my bullishness coming in really, really strong? Take a look at this profile. It's P shape, but it has something. What does it have?
Single prints.
So it's this single prints in the L period, right? I understand there's the M period here, but if they're able to reclaim this, think about what it's telling you about the value below. Now think right here, right? We have this single print that we know about, right? Where the spike is. Now, if you think about the rest, there's single prints here that would separate the portion, the top value, where we traded before and we shifted higher. That means they're accepting this value and this, whatever that low was, about 80.5 on a cumulative 2 days, is going to be our value low for now. Most likely we would accept this and rocket to the higher level where maybe previous week value area high here at 94.5. So if we open here, I mean, I'm watching, right? And I want to see them reclaim this level. I want to see them reclaim the zone so I can target the top again. But it opening here negates the single prints that we had, and that would be pretty good, right?
Thank you.
Okay. All right. Let's shift to NQ. So NQ, I would say similar story, right? I think they were kind of going together today. So if you guys look, we have a more distinct what on 3 days than ES.
Range.
E shape.
Yeah, I mean, you have a really nice balance on 3 days right here. So if you go here, if you look at 3 days, you came here, right? You had some single prints here. You defended this, right? You came back again today. Did you guys have 39.25 on your charts? Maybe. I had it, but maybe it was lower here. This one. So if you look at this, 38 was the single prints here. We came back again in M period the day prior, and today we came here and very closely tapped it, and it's showing that there's some buyers. So now if you guys look at this spike, it's the same concept as ES, right? You have this base spike, and then you have the base end is on the bottom here. If you guys want to mark it as a PDL or a base end. Spike end, PDL. I'll just do top. Okay, so now you're watching what? What do they need to do tomorrow? They have to reclaim 501. It's fairly straightforward, right? And if you guys zoom in a little bit, let me just gonna delete this for a moment. You see the value area low. I don't know why it's showing value area low twice on this one. Oh, because it's the weekly. So I was like, wow. So if you look here, the lowest value area low is 508. So if you really want to be, I would say, somewhat bullish, right? At least let them reclaim this. But where do you really turn bullish based on today's profile? It's not marked. So
Above the 529.
yeah, 529 is your level, because that would signify what?
The bulls took control over those single prints.
What about value? In terms of value, what would it mean?
Back trading in that higher quadrant of value.
Yeah, it would mean that we are rejecting the bottom area. This is not value to us. It's unfair value, and we're going back. And then you're basically targeting whatever that level is, about 584. So this is where they really shift into the bullish mode. If they go above the spike, you're bullish, but there's not a lot of room. 13 points is on NQ is not worth it. Right, once you enter this, then you can go for 60, 70 points, and it's a much better range to play than it is to aim 13 points on NQ, unless you're scalping. That's scalps are not planned. You're reacting to what market's giving. When you plan a trade like you do, overnight, you want to make sure that you have some points in your favor when you see your setup. So hopefully you guys can make a difference between the two. Okay. Any questions on this? It's the same concept as ES.
I have another question. Like today, with how we kind of ran into the single prints from yesterday, when
ES or NQ, sorry.
NQ, like what you have right there. Yeah, once we start, yeah, right there, that single print area. Yeah, from there we ran into it a bit. So when we do that, do you kind of just like drop your single print area from that would be Monday a little bit lower below previous day low to kind of know that we still have some single prints from Monday to get through, or do you just totally remove it?
Well, I mean, you can make this, right? I know this is access, right? The whole thing is access low.
Yeah.
Right. So this is access low here at all of it. And at any point here, we can find the buyers were really aggressive using maybe footprints or something, and you would know potentially where, or I don't know if I believe I touched this before, but if I take 50% of this, usually the 50% should be the level where they're targeting aggression. And in this case, I would say that worked pretty well. So you can use 50% of this to target your entries at half, but correct, this is the access bottom, right? And what that means, think about in terms of buying and selling aggression. this signified what? Selling or buying this yellow box here? Let me make sure.
Online.
Okay. Well, if I'm a bear and I can't absorb these buyers, what does that mean?
You're still there.
Well, that means you got to bring a lot more supply.
Mhm.
You got to bring in a lot more inventory willing to sell it lower, right, than selling it higher. So that means the buyers are still in control if you're not able to absorb this. And look what my box says here. I turned fairly bearish below this, right? And you would target some points below, but this is my range that I would target for the shift in the sentiment on NQ. And that means you have to do what first?
You have to get through that though. Through Monday's off.
I want you to get through this axis here. Once you get through the axis, you can slice it, and then I turn bearish here because then I'll be targeting, instead of this value where you rejected, right? I believe this was Wednesday, right? That was Wednesday. I'll be targeting probably the bottom of this, right? You would have value area high, which is also weekly halfback, but the volume is really not till about 267. And the CPOC here that I'm showing is pretty massive. I'll let you guys witness it here in a second. Put some candles. Look at this right here. This is, I mean, it's going back. I mean, let's see how far do you have to go back. So this is from February. This is your POC. And okay, now it shifts, but you see the node. So once you go all the way from January 30th, it shifts lower. But this is a fairly big node here. I would say this is almost like a month POC here that's basically developing. So if they're able to lose this spot right here at 408, I'm targeting quickly 286, right? You lose the weekly halfback, which we haven't seen in a while. Mostly we'll be targeting this zone here. And then of course, if you guys just turn on your weekly maybe for a second. Let's see. I'll disable that guy. Or you could turn a PVP here. So if you look at this, right, in terms of, let's just look at it in terms of weekly profiles, right? The market's clearly telling you something, right? Can you guys see it?
Trending higher.
What is this week compared to this week?
Balance.
Outside week.
This is an outside week, and if an outside week doesn't get followed through to the upside, where does an outside week get followed through most of the time?
Down, opposite.
It's gonna most likely go opposite. Then right now, if you look at this, right, previous week value area high is sitting at 532. Like right here. So if they're able to, let's say, get out of this weekly value area high, then things look up and they can explore much higher than this. I would probably think that 20,000 would be the next target, psychological, right? Because you see all the CNBC. Well, and I'll give you guys a trick. When you listen to the news, what do the news usually provide in terms of the numbers?
Round numbers.
They're very round numbers. They never give you a specific number. Oh, we are expecting SPX to hit 6,028. No, we're expecting SPX to hit 7,500. It's 75, 8, 65, 6. It's always very round, and people get excited about those large numbers, right? When you give them a specific number, then they challenge you. But when you give them a round number, they're like, oh, yeah, that sounds about right. Right? They agree with the number. So a lot of stuff that we are seeing now in the market, I mean, and I haven't been bearish in terms of how do I explain this? I'm not bearish, but I'm not a long-term buyer by no means here, if that makes sense. I'm sure the market can go higher, and I hope it goes higher, just for the purpose of people retiring. But I'm not bearish here, but I'm not buying here either. So if that makes sense. Okay, well, here's our, why did we turn this guy out? Took 10 minutes to get it on.
So sorry, Shorty, just to recap, you would drag the height of that yellow box down below previous day low.
This one?
Yeah. To
Okay.
kind of know that you still have some single prints there.
Yeah, I would mark this, right, that you haven't fixed. So you could basically leave this.
Drag it down. Okay, yeah. All right, yeah, that's all I was asking.
Yeah, that would be it. Yeah.
Okay.
So you started with this, you absorbed only 50% of it, and then you basically bounced. You bounced how many points? 840, about 60, 70 points from here. So that means there's some buyers there, right? Sitting at the bid, defending. And that's mainly probably from this guy right here. All right, well, that's all for me. I will schedule up this upcoming weekend. I'll schedule a class. I mean, hopefully the Thinkorswim people with Schwab can fix my TOS desktop because they're not able to figure some crap out. Everything works on my mobile and iPad, but I can't get it to work on my desktop.
I had the same thing happen.
What did they resolve for you?
Well, mine was on Tradeovate. It wasn't even on Schwab, so I don't know what's happening on another platform as well. It's weird. It's
Yeah, I
you
don't
had to
know.
reset everything. Like
Well, I
from the
hope I don't. Because I think with TOS, once you reset, you can lose a lot of stuff that you had set up in terms of.
Yep. That's exactly what I had to do.
All right, well, I'll keep you guys updated. I'll schedule a class, probably going to be Saturday morning, about 10:30 to 11. We'll go over the stock scan, right? Quarter end is coming up, so we're expecting some rebalancing to happen. I believe NASDAQ gets rebalanced here as well. So there'll be good opportunities to look for some value in some stocks for myself in the portfolio. And I'll be sharing that with you guys and what my plan is. What am I adding? If I'm selling anything, I did get rid of some stuff at the higher prices here just so I can raise some cash. And no, it's kind of becoming like a shopping spree, right? Let's see what's there and invest some money, right? Because you do want the money to work for you at some point.
Is the market closed Friday?
It is.
Okay.
Yep. So I'm expecting a rally Thursday.
Let's go.
You'll
I
put that
guess.
in announcements whenever.
Yeah. I'm gonna put in announcements here shortly.
Alright.
Yep.
Yeah.
I guess.
Hey, Shorty.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.